Is this too much light? Maybe, I don't know.
No.
I think everything looks fine. You look fine. Your connection seems good. So do we sound fine? Can you hear everybody?
I can hear perfectly. Yeah, thanks.
Awesome.
Oh, I'm going to turn my fan off. I'm going to turn my fan.
Michael's telling me I'm glistening, so I need to
You need to
powder up or something.
About every 5 minutes, have him kind of dip in
makeup. Makeup.
He went upstairs. My makeup artist, he went upstairs.
Fire the makeup artist.
I'm trying not to make sure you don't get. There we go. Oh gosh, I should have done. There we go. Maybe we can. There we go. I don't want you to see that crap back there and over here. Okay.
Oh, I got an empty crap back here. I'm trying to. I can't even give this thing away.
Wow.
It's a nice solid armoire that opens up for TV and shelves and storage and stuff. And armoires are out.
And they're heavy as fuck to move.
Yeah.
Amen to that. Yeah.
We had, remember the flat Sony Vega TV, the first flat screen that weighed like a boat anchor. It was, I offered $25 for this and you get a free TV. You have to move it because it was in it. And not one person. They were like, well, not one person.
Wow.
I had a similar thing where it wasn't with the TV, but a tenant left one of those in one of my apartments, and it was a bitch, and nobody wanted it. I was trying to get people to come just take it, couldn't get anyone to take it, so it's in my garage.
Yeah. Well, hey, let's jump right into it and have some fun because this may be fun. If Michael wants to, Todd, he's welcome definitely to come and sit next to you and stuff, and be in on the fun. That would be pretty fun.
All right. Well, if he comes back downstairs, I'll motion him over.
Okay.
I have lots of notes here. Just.
Oh, jeez. That's a good idea.
That's pretty cool. All right. Let's see. Do you have any questions before we start the official deal, Todd?
No, I think we're good. I mean, you'll guide me as I need to go, right?
Hopefully.
Yeah.
All right. Let's see here. Okay, so we're recording. So, all right, we're going to jump into it and just do an intro. And so over this whole thing, when we're done, we'll edit out dead space or may change things around or something like that, just to see what we got and stuff. But your sound, the connection, everything sounds fine. So should be pretty good to go.
Okay.
All right. Y'all ready?
I is.
And okay. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. This is Scott with My Ship Story. I've got our guest Todd. We've got Brad and Eric here, as everybody knows already. Todd, I actually worked with he was one of the very first people that I met on the cruise ship on the gangway back in the day. What is this, like 30 years ago? But so we're going to get to Todd here in a little bit. First, we got to see what's going on around the table. Brad, Eric, anything going on today? Any fun stuff?
Not really. Other than I listened to the podcast that dropped today, and of course, Todd. We mentioned Todd already, and so now we're recording.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
Ship Story. So this is great.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, I'm just happy to see Todd again. Todd is a good friend of mine, and he stops by. He seems to stop by here in Nashville every year, 2 years, and it's always great catching up with Todd.
Yes, Eric's trying to come north.
Yes, it is my turn. Yep.
That would be awesome.
Post-COVID.
All right. Well, everybody, also, we're expecting a real estate call from Eric. So if that goes, he probably will need to bolt after this. But, that just means that he's probably going to sell a house and make a ton of money. And so Todd, first, and Todd, I might mention also he's with the Cruise Planner family. So if you guys are look for a vacation or something like that, go to what is it? Tell us
See
your
the
website.
world. SeeTheWorld.fun.
All right, SeeTheWorld.fun. So if you guys want to book any vacations or anything, go to SeeTheWorld.fun and book through Todd, definitely. And after this, we'll get you to give us your information as well at the end of the show.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, Todd, this is your turn to tell us your ship story. And I'm sure this is going to be fun. I'm sure there's tons of stories. Just kind of first tell us a little bit about yourself, where you've been, how long were you on the ships you like, ships you didn't. And, we'll get to
Right into the
Toddles
story.
story. Sorry, I can't not call you Toddles.
That's all right. I've been called worse in life. So yeah, hey everybody, my name is Todd. My ship story begins back in 1992, as well as Scott mentioned. My first ship was with Royal Caribbean Majesty of the Seas, but that was not my first company. I attended the Cruise Career Training Center, I think it was called, in Fort Lauderdale, 1 month.
Brad.
Yeah. Oh,
Brad
Scott mentioned
attended
it
as
earlier.
well.
Sorry, I have an invader right here. So, yeah, so I did that for a month and decided to move down to Fort Lauderdale with some friends who also were part of that. Sorry, that were also part of that, and we had a good time. And I got contacted by Dolphin Cruise Lines. Remember that cruise line?
Yeah.
Dolphin was like.
Didn't they run into us at in Cozumel?
They ran into the pier in Cozumel and, had a
okay.
huge hole on the side of their ship, and all the passengers had to get off.
But yeah, well, that was my first company. I got hired over the phone with them, and so it was like, let's do this timeline. Like maybe Saturday morning, they called and said, "Hey, we want to have you join the ship." Okay, great. In 1 week. Now I was listening to all your podcasts this morning or this afternoon, and we all kind of have that similar hurry, rush, right? I had already had my passport, so I was good there. But I did need to get my physical.
Because you were a graduate of the Cruise Career Training Institute, and they told you, get a passport.
That's correct. That is, yes.
Hey, on the cruise career thing, when did you guys go? Did you guys go around the same time, do you think?
I was in January of 92.
Yeah, I would have been around May of 91.
Oh, okay.
Okay. So yeah, it was actually, it was 30 days of fun, really, in Fort Lauderdale. Classes Monday through Friday, and then weekends off, kind of thing. We did what did we do? A field trip to the Bahamas on that day cruise. I forget what they were called. Day Escape or Cruise Escape or something like that.
Seascape.
There you go. I mean, it's been so long ago that I can't remember all that stuff. But we had a really good time. I took a leave of absence from my job in Pennsylvania, and then did that training and met all these people, and we all decided to move back down there.
What did you do before the ships?
Oh, sorry, yeah. Well, let's see. What did I do? I was like a mixed bag of stuff. I worked after I graduated high school. I went to moved to San Francisco for a few years, or actually I lasted only a few months because I thought I would be closer to get a cruise ship job, my dream job. My original job that I wanted to do was a flight attendant. I used to think that would be an awesome job to have, just be able to fly around the world kind of thing. However, I was a little bit too heavy and a little too tall for that, because you had to be like no more than 6'3", and you had to weigh around the same height, height and weight measurements. So yeah, so that's what I did. And then before I came down to Fort Lauderdale, I was working at a retirement community as a waiter in an independent retirement community. And I actually tried so hard because there aren't too many ships coming in and out of central Pennsylvania. The Susquehanna River just doesn't carry ships the sizes like the Majesty. So I had these retirement community people go on vacation. They were going on a cruise. So I sent my resume and everything with them to just give it to the captain, give it to whomever you have to give it to. Just give it to them. And actually this one lady came back and she said, I gave it to the purser. They told me to give it to the purser, and he asked if you were American, and he just laughed in my face. And I said, why did you do that? I don't know. We'll find out once I get the job. And then it was after then that I got the information about the Cruise Career Training Program. I didn't know about them until I got a postcard in the mail one day. Apparently they got my information somehow through the grapevine. So I took a leave of absence from work and did that, and came back and quit work and moved down. Like I said, I Dolphin Cruise Line was the first company. And the reason I went to Cruise Career, I'm guessing maybe Brad, you did the same, is because they had career placement or job placement assistance. That was the first I've ever heard of anything like that. They didn't really have, they wouldn't guarantee you a job, but they had assistance, right? Which is much closer to what I had in Pennsylvania. So then I got this phone call from Dolphin, and they said, well, you need to go get a physical, you need to go get a tuxedo, and you need to do, I had to do all this running around. I had no money, just like the rest of us. I heard the stories earlier today. I was just like, 21, 22, like no money, barely making it. And so I'm running around, but I have to share this funny physical story with you, because I went to the Siemens Center in Fort Lauderdale, because that's where I was living, and I went there. And the doctor, we all know how you have to, cough, turn your head and cough kind of thing. Well, I'm standing there, and the dude goes, we're nonchalantly talking, and he says, okay, stand up, pull your pants down, and show me your dick. And I was like, what? Well, I'm not in Pennsylvania anymore, because they don't say that kind of stuff in Pennsylvania.
I was like, and it took you 2 seconds to pull your pants down.
A second and a half.
I couldn't wait. Wouldn't wait for you to ask. I've been wanting to do this the whole time I've been here.
It took a second and a half, baby. That's the fastest this big boy could ever move. So that's how that worked. And then I was like, okay, cool. And then while I was finishing getting ready, all my stuff gathered together, figuring out what I was going to do with all my crap that I moved down to Fort Lauderdale. I'm going to sea on Saturday. What am I going to do with all my stuff, my car, all that kind of stuff? I get a phone call from Dave Vanderpass. Was that his name? Dave Vanderpass? Yeah. Right? And of course, again, you said earlier, it was before cell phones. So, of course, I had to use a payphone, because my sister called, said, hey, somebody called the house, blah, 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 blah. So I called him back, and he's like, hey, yeah, I'd like to interview you for a job we have on one of our new ships. I'm like, cool, when? He's like, oh, I guess I was sailing Sunday. Because he goes, how about Saturday? Oh, okay, yeah. So I go to drive down to Miami. And the interview was like 3 or 4 hours long, because he was so busy, because it was a ship day. It was a ship day. So everybody kept coming in, all the crew staff people, cruise directors coming in. He showed me around to Richard Fain's office, showed me around everything. And then he goes, well, has anybody else offered you a job? And I was like, oh, crap, what do I say? Like, do I be truthful? Well, I'm supposed to sail tomorrow on Dolphin. Oh, I go, but if you have an offer, I'd rather take you up on it. And then he said, well, we'd like to offer you the position. I go,
done.
I'm in. Because he said I'd be bringing out the Majesty of the Seas, new position, stage staff position, working backstage. Yeah, the whole 9 yards. And I go, well, I'd like to drive all my stuff back north to Pennsylvania. Do you think you can maybe fly me out of Pennsylvania over to Paris or to France with the group? Oh, he goes, you just drive home and we'll fly you back down here in a week or so, and we'll just fly you with the group. Okay. Yes, mister, I have my passport. And so and that's what I did. I drove straight home to Pennsylvania, 26 hours alone in my car with my stuff. I was stupid, young and stupid, but the adrenaline was going, because I had my dream job, right? The dream job was to see the world and meet people. So that's what I did. So that's how I got started with Royal Caribbean. And then, of course, I flew over to France with the rest of the group to the Majesty. Royal Caribbean is always going to have a special place in my heart, because it was the first cruise company I worked with. Just for all of you to know, I worked another 8 years. I worked 4 with Royal and 4 with Cunard. So I did an 8-year career, which was great. I got to see the world the way I wanted it, and got paid for it, even better. But why did I decide to work on ships? I think I told you, because I wanted to be a flight attendant, but too big for that. I worked on 8 years. I'm going down my list of questions now, so I can make sure everything's close. First position, obviously, was stage staff. After my first 6-month contract, I was promoted up to crew staff, and then into assistant shore excursion manager, and then shore excursion manager is how I kind of finished out my career at Royal. How ironic, though, I started out on the Majesty and ended on the Majesty. The Majesty was going into dry dock, and I think it was like fall of 95 or 96. And I was like, I had asked to be. I want to see the world. I don't want to stay stuck here in the Caribbean, right? When I tell that story to people, they're like, the Caribbean, what? There's nothing wrong with that. I'm like, yeah, try dealing
Oh
with
no.
some.
You do the cruise around Cuba as much as we did, and you just get so tired of it. You mean you really do. I don't know, my first 3 or 4 contracts were all in the same itinerary. And it was
Yeah,
just like, I didn't really want to go ashore that much, besides, go to lunch at your favorite places and stuff like that. But
Yeah,
right.
you do get tired of it.
that Majesty run we did for 2.5 years solid. Every Tuesday, every Thursday was Grand
Cozumel.
Cayman. Every Tuesday was Cozumel.
Yeah. You never knew what.
I can't remember who it was, but there was a, do you remember all of the crap that we went through because we had just taken a position and got 3 times the money that the people before us were doing for years and stuff. So we were hit with a not people weren't nice. They put us below the water. We were kind of like the stewards, and just it was really crazy. But what I was gonna say. I can't remember who it was. It might have been, I don't know if it was GE or I don't know if it was Greg or who it was, but we had gotten trashed, and on the way back to our cabin had stopped by the office and wrote up some paper or something like, why we should have our position on every ship, mainly because we wanted to go somewhere else and to get somewhere else. And somehow, I don't know where, how, who, whatever, it made it to shoreside, and they were like, sounds good. And I think it was Vicky Davis who went to bat for us and said that, they're staged. They're used to these, they're used to backstage. We want that on all of my shows or all the shows that I'm doing, or Gene and Ryan or whoever. And then they started installing our position on different ships.
But, I forgot about that, because you guys were the OGs for that position. You couldn't go to any other ship. That was the only ship that had that position.
Yeah, it was crazy. Todd,
what's OG? Sorry, what's OG?
Original
guys.
Gangster.
Original gangster. Yes, you got it.
Apparently, I'm not woke enough.
Or now that we're old, everybody says FOG, like fucking old guys. But
I haven't been called that yet.
And so
you just did.
we were all pretty close to being on the Majesty at the same time. I don't know if we really were, but we were really close, because all of us were on there pretty close to 95, weren't we?
No, we were there on the original. The 3 of us worked there during the crossing in the first years. And then I went back. When I went back, I don't think Scott or Todd was back on there. That was early, and that was late 95, like fall, winter of 95, going into early 96.
Okay, but we just missed each other then, though. We just missed each other. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went over to the Sovereign after I got back from that vacation, after that first 6 months contract. Then I went to the Sovereign, and which I thought was really cool. But then Eric, we reconnected. We reconnected on the Sovereign then.
We worked on the Majesty, the Sovereign, and the Monarch. The Monarch was very brief because I was delayed, and by the time
I was only there for 30 days.
Yeah, I think I only had like a week or 2 with you there. But then did you go to after the Monarch, did you go back to the Majesty?
No, I went to the Nordic Empress.
That was my second. I did the first, 2 years on the Majesty, then I think 1 or 2 contracts on the Empress, and then the Monarch was my that one, and then I got promoted to stage manager, and then I went to the Song of America. That was my last one. All right, Todd. So you got any stories? Any fun, crazy, wild stories? I know there's stories, but
there are stories. But you know what? My FOG in me is I'm kind of losing things. But that's why I had to make the notes. Well, during the crossing, small town PA boy, going to France for the first time, going overseas for the first time, and then having you remember during the crossing over to New York, from Southampton to New York, we had a bunch of execs feed the crew. They served the crew in the dining room.
That was
Remember?
between New York. That was between New York and Miami.
That was
Oh,
the
was it?
cruise. That was the
Yeah.
cruises to nowhere. The media
So it was
cruises.
so like the
Okay,
day
so-
before we got into Miami, the execs all fed us, and we all ate in the dining room.
Because it was over Easter. See, because we were in Charleston over
Yeah.
Charleston over Easter,
Yeah.
I think that year. Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was during the crossing, but I remember seeing it up in the Viking Crown Lounge during the crossing. And North Atlantic can be a little rough, right? So I had a little free time, and I went to hide away from the posse. And so I remember seeing at the Viking Crown Lounge, looking straight out, and just watching the bow of the ship kind of do this, real slow. And I was like, oh my God, this is awesome. This is like an amusement park ride. This is what my life is going to be right here, is an amusement park ride 24/7. So that was pretty cool. But then where I was going with the food service, though, I thought, oh, I'm going to be adventurous. I'm going to venture out these fine dining restaurant, whatever they serve on the ship and whatever. And I go, oh, look, they have escargot on the menu. I think I'll try that because, snails, whatever. So I'm like all excited. They put it down in front of me, and I was like,
what the hell?
take it away, take it away. I just could not bring myself to eat the snails. And to this day, I can't do that either. But
oh, really?
My God.
Yeah, nope, can't do it. No matter how much garlic butter you put it in.
That's how I learned. I had never had escargot until I got on ships, and there was so much garlic and butter that I just absolutely loved it. And I used to order it in the officers' mess. We used to be able to order it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was every week, every Tuesday. It was Tuesday night or Monday night. I think it was Monday night. Every Monday night, which was the sea day, which is the formal sea night, it's when they had escargot, and I ordered every week.
We didn't get that in the slum mess.
Yeah, we didn't have it in the mess, but when I was on the Empress, they let us. I think there was one day or something like that where I think it was formal night, but they let us dine in the dining room as long as we were like in the tux and stuff, and that's when we tried escargot the first time, and I was like done. I love it. I love it. I every time we'd go up there to order like 2 or 3 trays, I'm like, that's my whole dinner. I just want 4 of them.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
That was good.
Not me either, but it was a good time. But you remember we also, when we pulled into New York, it was so amazing to watch the statue, because it was being first time abroad, and then all of a sudden you're coming back in and you see the Statue of Liberty, like, oh, now I can imagine what it felt like to be, immigrating to America, because you're coming past the statue and you whatever. So obviously it's a way different feeling, but it was really just really cool. But remember we had that Olympic gala on board.
Yeah.
Jackie Joyner Kersey was in the audience.
Yeah.
Lawrence Griffith Joyner came on as well.
And Ahmad Rashad was the guest speaker, and the little sports announcer guy, what's his name?
Bob Costas.
That's it.
Tom Costas.
Yeah, because we were working backstage, and so we had to deal with some of that staging. And I remember we were doing the light positions for for everybody, and I had to fill in for Bob Costas. And then of course he comes out, and he's like 5 feet shorter than me. I'm like, that lighting's a little off, isn't it? But what I remember most about that is, remember Jan used to, one of the first things out of Jan Melzer's mouth was, you don't ask for autographs, you don't ask for photos, you just treat them like normal people. I'm like, oh my God, but some of these people, these are celebrities. Like, come on. How can you make me squash my dreams? Well, we were backstage, and Dawn Lewis was singing the national anthem that night. And you remember Dawn Lewis? She was in a TV show that spin-off of the Cosby Show with Lisa Bonet when she went off to college.
I forget.
Yeah. So I'm like, here's how stupid I am. So I'm holding the flashlight for her before she goes out. I'm like, because I can't ask for autograph, can't ask for photos. I'm like, I need to tell you, it's such a privilege for me to hold your flashlight for you this evening. Yeah, I'm a dick. That's it. But it was really cool to kind of peek out the curtain and just see all those. You had a bunch of soap opera stars and all that kind of stuff going on there. So,
Queen Sonia.
Yeah, when we got to Miami.
That was the first cruise when we did the
christening.
Sunday, the christening. Yeah. But I remember that, Todd, because I couldn't go in to see all that stuff that was going on, but I was working the front desk, and I remember a couple things that happened. One is Florence Griffith Joyner came in with her husband, who was Jackie Joyner Kersey's brother. And they were put in it wasn't a suite. The ship didn't really have suites. I don't remember. I don't believe they just had the cabins up that had the balcony cabins. And or actually, yeah, deck 8. And I actually don't think there were balcony cabins when you think about it. They were just windows, but those were the biggest ones we had. And they wanted a bigger room. They're like, the room is tiny. We want a bigger room, and they were not happy at all. And I had to tell them there are no other rooms. Like, you are in one of the biggest rooms, except for the owner's suite. You are in, the biggest room around.
And you're
they
just
were
overnighting.
Just staying the night. Yeah, it was the one night in New York overnight.
Yeah, so those are some really cool memories that I have working with those with entertainment. I remember before we in Southampton, coming into Southampton for the inaugural portion of it, and we were told we're working with a Petula Clark. Now, I don't know if Scott, we didn't mention in your segment that what we were hired, not just all the fun backstage stuff, we were also schlepping all of their equipment and all of that. Jerry Lewis was probably my biggest, just like poke my eye out. May he rest in peace. And so, but we had to schlep all their stuff. And I just remember them saying, "Oh, we're going to pick up Petula Clark, and she's going to perform." Like, Petula who? Like, what's that? And I remember calling home to my dad, and I'm like checking in, and I said, "Oh yeah, we're some chick named Petula Clark." He's like, "Petula Clark? Oh my God." I'm like, "Dad, who is she? Like, relax. I don't know who she is." But anyway, so now,
To Serve with Love, wouldn't it? Didn't she do To Serve with Love?
Downtown.
Downtown.
But did she do Clang Clang? No, that was somebody else. Clang 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 with the trolley. That was somebody else.
That's
Judy Garland.
Judy Garland.
Oh, okay. But yeah,
we're gonna start taking your card away, Todd.
I was gonna say, did you
That's a
out on a Judy Garland song?
Please edit that out.
Oh, that's staying in.
Okay, good. But what else? So I need to know, and this is a big question I need to know from if Peter Vincent is listening or participating in this. There was a story of Peter, and I need him to come out and clarify this, because I've said it, repeated it multiple times. Do you remember we used to have Masquerade? Remember every Wednesday night was Masquerade, doing Dancing in the Stars kind of thing, and then they would give a bunch of crafts for people to decorate or make whatever they wanted to do. And the story goes that the night on a Thursday evening, Peter was helping at the shore excursion desk, and somebody came up to complain, and Peter, in his great way of getting away with stuff, told the person just kind of hold on, and walked behind the shore excursion desk to the cruise director's office where all that stuff was left over, and somebody had like a wand, like a little Dorothy wand, kind of, or the Wicked Witch kind of wand. Said he comes walking and he says, "Be gone with you before a house falls on you too." Now, how priceless is that to be able to just do that to somebody? And I want to know if there's truth to that. So Peter, if you're listening, I'd like to know if there's truth to that.
I do know when he used to do the ballerina on the If I Were Not Upon the Seas, I do remember him having a wand with a star on it. So maybe that's where he got it. I don't know, but I don't know about that story. We'll have to get to Peter Vincent, pizza. You'll have to tell us that story.
If you're listening, yeah, that would be awesome.
Hey, I got to go back to Saint Nazaire for a second. And Eric, you may remember this. Do you remember when we were on there and the ropes broke and we sailed off and the gangway? Greg and I were on the gangway as it fell into the ocean or whatever when it started pulling away.
Wasn't Bucky with you too?
Bucky was on there. Maybe the three. I know there was a couple of us. I know Greg was next to me, but we were literally walking off of the gangway and stepping onto the ship when the ship started pulling away and snapped the lines and it floated out by itself. Do you guys remember that?
I do remember that. Yeah, I wasn't on board. I had gone off into town for something, and I remember coming back, and everybody was like running around, going like, "What the hell's going on?" Yeah. So obviously, I heard all the stories, but I actually missed it because I had gone into town for something. I don't remember what for.
In your luxurious hotel, unlike the campground we were put into.
Yeah. I would hardly call it luxurious, but compared to your campground, it probably was.
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier. Scott and I were just reminiscing about. I remember about that. We were put in because I think we were there a couple of days before Scott got there because of all his fiasco he had going on, and we would tell like the Ray Rouse and Lori Rizzo was our lead person, the person we reported to mostly, and
Whips and Chains.
they were like. I don't really remember what that is about, but okay.
That was her walkie-talkie. Remember, we were the Monkey Boys, and then Ray Rouse was what was he was Kilo, Charlie was Kara, Whips and Chains was Riz, and
I forgot that one.
Anyway, go on.
Yeah, so we were there a couple of days before. And we were like, oh, these conditions are not really great, blah blah blah, and they were like, we're just supposed to be with us in the hotel. Well, we didn't. So they rented us a van because we were working opposite of the bus schedule. Like there was a bus taking everybody else because it was mostly food and beverage. I think that was stuck out there too. We met some really great people in the food and beverage department while we were out there lounging with in the cabins. But so they rented us a van, and it was a stick shift van. I was the only one out of the three of us who could drive it because Christian, we keep forgetting about Christian Salderholm being one of the first ones there too. He was we rounded up the four of us. And so I remember just driving this van in France going, okay, wonderful. But it was those cool experiences that you can't really forget about and replace them anyway.
Same thing that happened to me. I was there years later bringing out ships for Renaissance, but we had a team of pursers, and we would have to go back and forth to the ship every now and then from our little campsite in Bat-Zermatt. And I always had to drive. I'm like, I was the only American, and I'm like, guys, really? I'm the one that has to drive. I'm the only one that can drive a stick shift. This is
right.
On the other side,
and the roundabouts, man. That
on the left side of the road.
That threw me.
No, it's on the right side.
It's the same, but the roundabouts
yeah.
really threw me at first. I'd never been through a roundabout, and man, and of course my chief purser was this German lady, and man, when I didn't do those roundabouts right, man, I caught it.
What's the right way to do it? Just stay in line, right?
You just keep going as far as I could figure out. I just get out of my way, people. I'm coming.
I would totally Chevy Chase it and just keep going around. How do I get out?
Big Ben, Parliament.
Nice.
So Todd, real quick, so we're there, because I asked Jan this, is there or was there like entertainers, because you got to work closely with those entertainers, and there were some pretty big names that came on. So did you have a favorite that you liked, that you saw, that you were just like, oh my God, just nicest, sweetest? And was there somebody that was just a huge pain in the ass?
Well, I can start with the pain in the ass real quick. Right off the top, that was Jerry Lewis.
Yeah.
Jerry Lewis, and he was the biggest disappointment as well. I don't know how frank we can get on this program, but I just remember they did an episode of the telethon. They recorded stuff on the telethon, which was all supposed to be live back home. Like everything, oh, we're live, and of course Chara was the entertainer on board there as well. And I just remember him walking around, and when the camera was on, he was bubbly and cordial to everybody. But the millisecond that camera was off, people wanted to talk to him, and he's like, "No, I don't have time for you," and just kept walking. And that was one of the things. But he would always show up to the ship, always with an entourage. He'd have his music director, his family, and whatever. And it was Grand Cayman Day. That's when the turnaround was Grand Cayman Day. So you couldn't just walk up to the pier. No, you had to tender over, right? So we're sitting in that hot sun waiting for him to get there. He takes his dear sweet little time. And then he comes with like 20 bags, right? You had music.
As we had black nylon shirts, black nylon pants,
black shoes.
150,000 degrees in Grand Cayman, and the humidity was 1,000%. It was, and his Louis Vuitton 45 bags.
Even trunks at some time. I mean, it was just that's not what really made him a bad person either. I was one of the people who was on duty one day, a port day, and he was in his room, and I think he had a room or a suite next to the cruise director, so he was up in that level somewhere. It wasn't really a suite, but it was bigger than our cabins.
Right.
But he called the cruise director's office. I answered the phone. He was like, "This is Mr. Lewis and blah blah blah. I need someone to come move the TV from one side of the room to the other." Okay, let me get on that for you. And then I reported that to Jan, or I escalated because that wasn't my job to move the TVs around. But it was that kind of nitpicky stuff. So he had always put a sour taste in my mouth for celebrity. I didn't really care too much for him. Did I really have a favorite? I don't think I had a favorite, but I did like meeting Captain and Tennille. The Fifth Dimension, we just heard their song the other day, and I go, oh my gosh, I helped them sell their CDs, and then they autographed one for me and gave it to me, that kind of thing. Ben Vereen was always awesome. Mary Wilson, always liked when Mary Wilson came on.
Do you remember filling her rider where we had to take a case of, because we didn't, a case of I don't know, it probably was 8 or 9 gallons of vitamin D milk to her room so she could take a bath in
that
it.
That was Diane Carroll.
Diane Carroll.
I remember hearing about that it was Diane Carroll. She was a real diva. I mean, from what I heard anyway, she was, she had a great performance. I remember watching it from I don't know what she was like backstage, but I remember watching a show and it was really good. But I had heard she was a real diva, and she was the milk person from what I remember.
I don't remember meeting her.
But I got into a full shouting match with Mary Wilson.
Really?
Yes, a full shouting match. I think Sue Richardson was a cheap person.
Oh.
She basically had to come out and get between us because she was so bad.
I think I remember that. Brad, because I think
she
I
wouldn't pay
at that time. She wouldn't pay.
She wouldn't pay for her entourage. She thought her entourage was getting free drinks, and I had a letter from the home office saying only her, and she was not happy, and I was not happy because we were holding the ship up.
Oh, gotcha. But I remember one of her writers was Caviar and Dawn Perignon in the backstage for her. That was one of the things I remember. And I remember Rain would come on and order cases of beer and all this alcohol, and then they only drink a few and then invite the crew back for a party after.
Boom. Yeah.
I do have to say,
Ralph would be like, put on what you guys want. Okay.
I do have to say, watching Mary Wilson's show, it was also really good. She was a really good singer.
Mm-hmm.
Back stuff, I don't know, but she was a good singer.
I'm not discounting her talent. I'm just saying that we
I know.
And I'm sure she was probably a very pleasant person otherwise, but I'm just saying that my run-ins with her, and she came back like a month later or something, and man, she did not like me at all, and I was not a big fan of hers either. But we did not get into a shouting match the second time.
Yeah, their shows in the public and their shows was great. Todd, do you remember this? This one. We'll have to get a Murph to tell this story too. But do you remember lifting this 1,200-pound baby white grand Yamaha piano on the stage, off the stage? It was a new piano. We have to lift it up there, and then they had to tune it, and then Jerry Lewis is going to come do a show. And he does this bit, oh, lady, this thing where he takes this white cane and he walks over to the piano and he beats the crap out of this piano, like full on, like hitting this piano. And Murph, I've never seen anyone move across a lounge that fast to out of there and down the lounge and yelling at him, like, quit doing that. That's a 50,000, whatever, piano. And so Murph was like, okay, well, if you're going to do that, they got some, what do you call it? The thin, white, hard Lexicon or Lexi something.
Plexiglass or something?
Something, but he cut out and he really worked good at it. And it was genius. He cut out the top of the piano. So that was to protect it when he did this, cane bit, because that had to be in the show and he was going to do it or he wasn't going to perform. So Murph did it. It was white. You couldn't, from the audience, you didn't know that it was a fake piano deal. And right before the show, Jerry Lewis went over there and looked at it and he was like, no, I don't think so. And he took it off. And Murph,
I don't remember that.
He was fit to be tied, but yeah, he was not a very friendly guy.
Yeah. So we've been going for a while. Todd, do you have another story that you want to lay on us? Just a quick one.
I actually do. Also working back.
We're going to try not to interrupt you a lot. So
let me talk. Working backstage, also being the only gay one, once I finally came out and been comfortable with myself backstage, I was the personal dresser for Jennifer Gustafson, right?
Oh yeah.
She was one of the cast members, right?
Jennifer Bender.
It's Jennifer Bender now, right? But it was Gustafson.
No, it was
then.
Jennifer Bender.
Bender then. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jen, screw up that. Anyway, so she would come back and she'd have like 2 seconds to get out of one costume and in the other. So I'd always have her costume. My nephews thought the world, like I had the best job in the world, to be able to have women strip out of their one costume and into the other with titties flapping in the wind. So she'd come back and all that kind of stuff. But do you remember that they had that Imaginique show? Was it Imaginique? The really spacey one?
Yeah.
And I can't remember this entertainer's name. She was a singer, but they had to do rollerblades. Remember the rollerblades contest? And then they had those curly cute
women do.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And they had those curly cute things around their boobs and their nipple as part of their costume. And I'll never forget. I think you or Christian were working on the one side of the stage and I was on the other. And I hear this, Todd. I'm like, well, okay. So he comes running over while one of the other boys was right there next to her. And she's like, fix my tits. Because they were like that little squiggly thing was like over here off to the side and it was supposed to be out front. I'm like, but they're here. Why couldn't they? We know you wouldn't enjoy it. Okay, great. Thanks. So then I'm there playing around with. So good times from working backstage. I have a lot more too.
You ever did we get into this with another guest pretty soon, but did you ever have to drag anybody off stage?
No.
Okay.
I just checked.
It seems to happen. So.
Oh, really? Gosh, I missed those days. I did play a robot one time. We were talking about this earlier today. What was his name? Mark O'Brien he was a magician in the middle of Imagineer, or middle of one of those shows, and he had. I don't know how I got selected or chosen, but he had platform shoes like this high that I had to step onto. So I'm already 6'4", and you add like another 5 inches. I was huge. And then I'd stand behind. I couldn't see shit. Couldn't breathe. Couldn't see shit. I mean, you're just like, and I was like because I was appeared. He made me appear, and I remember the curtain dropped, and I hear this kid in the front, "Mommy, is that the Terminator?" And I'm like cracking up inside. Meanwhile, I couldn't. I mean, they weren't heavy. They were like styrofoam or whatever. The shoes were just that platform. They weren't heavy. But I had to step over this curtain, and I didn't step over the curtain. And I go,
face plant.
And I'm like, uh-oh. Like, how am I getting up? I forgot even how I got up because it all happened so fast, and the spotlight was on me. But good times. So yeah. So I appreciate you guys having me on. I'm sure I could come up with other things. And if you ever need a fourth little commentator person, I'm available.
Awesome.
What happened to Todd's talk? We didn't even go there.
Oh, we didn't even get to Todd's talk. I thought Brad was rushing me. Do I have to? Okay.
No, I'm not rushing you. I was just getting to it. Because we're running on a little more of an hour. So I just wanted to make sure we got that in. But yeah, go ahead. Tell us about your social media and all that good stuff.
This might be a part 1 and part 2. That's totally fine. We want to hear about Todd's talk.
Well, Toddles Talk, when I became shore excursion manager, it was when we had the tickets. It was before they had the Boca machines come on. We had to stand there and rip off all these tickets, and we had we had the cast always help us out. And we would just stand around talking. And because my nickname was Toddles, and we just talk about any subject, it was like the Oprah of the ship, right? We just, no holds barred. We talked about sexual stuff, positions. We talked about racial stuff. We talked about, there was nothing holding us back. And it was all mature conversation. It was just to entertain us as we work. So we just called it Toddles Talk. And then one night, it was Eric. Weren't you part of that too? Because we were playing Scrabble. It used to be a bunch of us play Scrabble.
Well, if we were playing Scrabble, I was there then.
Yeah, and we were drinking, of course, over a couple bottles of wine. There's actually a video VHS out there of Toddles Talk, which I found before I moved. Jan mentioned it apparently.
Jan Melser, you need to send that to me, Jan.
And I found it while I was packing up, moving from Seattle here to the East Coast, and I went to the library and burned it onto CDs. So I now have a couple of copies of CDs, and that was before we came on the cruise where I saw you all last time. I gave a copy to Eric and copy to Karen O'Sullivan from Ireland. We conceived the program. We basically wrote it, got the team together, and I said, if I'm going to do this in drag, because I did it in drag, by the way, not a very pretty drag, just saying. But I was going to do it right. The makeup was going to have to be done correctly. And obviously I was a big boy, so there weren't very many dresses and there were no heels. Again, this all happened within a week. And we got Scott Rushton to do some sound for us. We got Debbie Holmes to be part of it. And a bunch of other people, cast members were involved. And the premise of this show was that we were going live on the Sovereign of the Seas to do this show, and then we were interviewing different people around the ship. And so we had the Scottish flamer dude, I can't remember his name, from the shops, who he wanted to have a role in it, and so we put him in it. And there was a part where we went to the gym where I was like I'm struggling to lift a barbell, and it comes up and it's this Q-tip, that kind of really stupid humor. And we weren't even drinking during taping. That's the sad part of it. But I had the guy from Sands Hotel in San Juan was the drag impersonator, Randy. I can't think of Randy's last name. Sorry, buddy. But anyway, he came on. We got him a visitor pass to come on the ship, and he did my makeup for me because I was going to do it. I was going to do it right. I didn't want to look some cheap floozy, right? So I wanted to look. So instead, thanks for the support. So then there was. One of the we used the wig. It was one of those short black crop wigs, and it just made Bob's. Yeah, it just made me look extremely Asian because it was like a little Asian.
Was that the wig from like Miss Saigon?
It might have been. It really might have been. Yeah, it was that kind of, and it was just. It's funny now going back to it and watching it, and just going, oh my God, what were you thinking? But when you think about it's only like 20 minutes long or something, maybe 30. But yeah, so Toddles Talk was then formed from that. And maybe what I'll do is try and find it and send you guys a copy or something. Eric, I don't know if you still have the copy I gave you. You moved since then too.
Yeah, no, I moved several times, but no, I probably have it somewhere. But I thought that video you gave us was about our trip in St. Thomas.
Oh, the Naughty Nymph.
Naughty Nymph, right.
Naughty Nymph 2. That was our boat for the day. You're right. That is the one I gave you. Shit. I got confused. Yes. CFOG, whatever you called me.
You're getting the hang of this, man.
It's just all these stories are blending together because then I have another 4 years on Cunard that I'm completely, not even going to because I don't, there's so many great stories there. But I remember working with Greg, what's the cruise director? Gregory Maxwell.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was beneath working on doing the ballerina as part of the If I Were Not Upon the Sea.
Yeah,
so every time I got to do it, and I was so excited about it. I did that one justice. And I did the Village People Macho Man, I did that.
We need to
on
find
stage.
these videos. I think I did the
Yeah.
Undertaker once.
Yeah. Oh God, remember? Oh my God, the first time they asked me to do it, and come on, Julie
Luxton.
Luxton. Well, that's her.
Julie
Yeager. Yeah, that's it. She was the I was the Undertaker, and she
The
was
lighthouse
the
keeper.
lighthouse keeper.
Yeah.
And I'm like, we're doing rehearsals, and you had to grab, and I'm, but you're such a classy girl. I can't do that. And so I had to just, but it was good times. Good times like that. But anyway,
It sounds like you got a lot of action with women while you're on board. You grabbed a lot of boobs while working on board.
It's like a jillion more boobs than I ever touched on ships. It makes me crazy.
Well, then since we're talking boobs, we might as well go into this story. Do you remember hostess Kathy? I can't remember Kathy's last name. She was blonde. She paid for her boobage. And she was very forthcoming with it, so it's not like I'm sharing anything that's surprising. But she would come up behind me a couple of times and just grab mine, because unfortunately I have some. And then I turned around and I go, bam, and this is the exact size of them right there. That's because whatever her doctor did, that must have been how he measured them, just like that.
Hand size, yeah, full hand size.
And they were solid. I'm like, you know what? Turnaround's fair play. You're gonna grab mine, I'm grabbing yours. And so yeah, I guess I did get a lot of boob action while I was there. Who would have thunk? But yeah, so guys, I appreciate you guys doing this. I can continue on and on and on, but I respect the time. So
that's all right.
Oh, yeah, we can edit anything out.
We can edit, make two of them. I'm trying to think of different funny stories and stuff. Just backstage.
Well, we've been going for an hour and a half. Don't you think we ought to start wrapping it up just so you don't have a
Have we been going an hour and a half?
We
started at 7.
Yeah.
Oh, we started at 7. Okay, all right.
Yeah. We got plenty of time.
54 minutes.
A second episode.
Well, 54 minutes minus our 10 minutes. So
yeah, Todd. So Todd was part of our Scrabble crew on the Sovereign, which
I was the dumb one.
So it was Patty Beal, Todd, Karen O'Sullivan, myself, and Scott Calgano was a dancer.
Oh, right, yes.
And so we all would play Scrabble, and it was usually Scott and I would really be competitive against one another, and it was usually it's like super close between us. But it was all a lot of fun. We just drank a lot, made sandwiches, and it was every Tuesday night, I think, or something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, it was one of the nights that Karen didn't have to work too late because she was in charge of the bell station.
Oh, yeah.
Right, the room service, and so she'd like, hey boys, bring down blah 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 blah, and so but it would get heated between you guys. And I'm the silly American. I'd go, oh look, yes, 2 points. They'd be arguing because Karen would have the British dictionary there, or the Queen's dictionary,
Irish.
whatever it was called. Yeah, and she'd be like, this is a word, look. And then the boys would bring out the website. No, it's not. And I'm like, oh, just let me drink. Let me just drink. But we had some good times there.
Oh, that's one of the most memorable things that about the Sovereign is those get-togethers. It was every week, and it was just so much fun. And then when Patty Beal left, Vicki Knudsen came on, and then she took over that spot, and she would play with us too. And it was just a lot of fun doing that.
Yeah, I was on the Sovereign for 2 years. 2 solid years, different contracts, obviously not straight up, but so I just dubbed myself the godmother of the Sovereign because people would come and go, and I'm still here. But I really did have some of the best times on the Sovereign. I guess part of that also was because I was shore excursion manager once I got into the management kind of team and had my own cabin. Speaking of cabins, let's talk about cabin mates. When you had a roommate, I won't name names in this because I had a bunch of different great roommates. Like Johnny was amazing. Gavin Moore, which I'd like to know where Gavin Moore is these days. He's a British dude. He was a crew staff guy. But anyway, so you know how tiny the cabins were, and you had bunks, and obviously nobody would want this size sleeping on top of them. So I would always have the bottom bunk, thank God. And then but I'd be sitting there watching TV, and the little TV when we have a little time, and my roommate would come out of the shower, and instead of standing, if the bed is here and over here's the shower, and you have this section over here for like a dressing area, he would come out of the shower right here between me and the TV and just drop his towel. I'm like, really? Come on.
Was it something you wanted to see?
No, it was like, not again. You know what I mean? It was just.
Yeah. I gotta ask this. Did your first roommate ever bring a passenger down or crew?
Oh, there's a good story. Yes, he tried to a couple times, but I put the kibosh to that because I remember yelling at him one night, saying, "You know what? You would not like me bringing you would not like waking up and having who I would bring down to the room. So I don't want to hear this. I don't want to see this. I don't want, whatever." But that first roommate in question, which I'm not going to mention names, every morning would get off the top bunk with his morning wood. Morning wood be sticking straight out through his boxes. And I'm like, what's up with this, boys? I haven't come out yet.
I don't think you needed to.
It was nice though. But besides that, but no, he tried a couple times, and I was just like, I will call security. I'm not beneath calling security because I don't want that. I don't want juices flowing down. Come on.
Oh man. I never had a roommate like drop his towel in front of me. Never. And two, I don't remember ever having a roommate bring somebody into the cabin. I did have one roommate, but I knew the girlfriend. I was friends with both of them, and she would sleep over. So it was like the three of us in there. But I mean, they were both friends of mine, and I didn't really care as long as it wasn't like activity going on while I was in there.
Thruple before thruple was cool.
No.
I got a question for all three of you. I know I did, but I'm just gonna ask this question. Did you guys ever do the toilet paper around the cabin into the toilet trick?
No,
but I was watching when you guys did. I would come over to your room to watch.
That was the funniest thing about the toilet, sucking and stuff. And Greg and I put toilet paper all over our cabin, and we pulled then we took a big, wad of it, and we pulled it, and it would go all over the cabin, and we just thought that was the funniest thing.
Sorry, I just pulled up this picture.
Oh my God!
Look at that, Greg, and I used to think. I used to think that was toilet paper there, but there's actually the step to the bunk. But
bunk,
So sorry.
So who's in that picture? Just so people who can't see it.
So Greg Hurd there, the tan boy on the floor, then Jennifer Bender in the middle, and Scott laying down. That was on ground zero. That was our cabin down on zero deck.
I remember. I think the first time I saw you, Todd. I don't know why you were. I think we were going to boat drill. I don't know what was going on, but I passed through that hallway where you were standing outside. And then you smiled, and I, smiled, and I kept walking. And I got to the end of the hallway, and I turned around, and you were still looking and smiling. And I was like, okay. I know there's family there. Yes, we had a little moment. I was like, I know there's family there.
It was years later, though, before you became confident in coming out. I remember that.
Yeah, I didn't come out for a long time.
You were the purser at bingo that day. We were doing bingo, and that's when we were talking, and you finally admitted, and I'm like, oh.
When was that? Because it took a while, and it was little by little. Like the first contract. I mean, okay, so the first time I ever messed around with a guy was when on my first contract on Song of America. But I was kind of going back and forth between guys and girls. I kind of was like a transition period. And even on Majesty, that was the last time I ever had sex with the woman was on Majesty. That night, no, it was a crew member. It was do you remember that we had American bar waitresses? Like for a very short time. There was 4 of them, and they lasted like a month. And and this was the night before when the executive served us in the dining room. It was the night before we got into Miami, and it was like we could play in the casino. We actually, they had us like, we could gamble. There was like a tournament in the casino, like a Anyway, and we could all go in there and stuff like that. And it was a lot of fun. And I got pretty drunk and, hey, she just
appeared.
Yeah, and she just seemed to be very friendly and wanted to. And I was like, okay. It was kind of just happened. So I was like, okay, well, but that was the last time.
Yeah.
I got one more celebrity. Let me go back to, do you remember Phyllis Diller picking her up in Grand Cayman? When we, she at this time, she was already 1,000 years old, but when we picked her up in Grand Cayman, she didn't have her big wig. She was an old lady, and we didn't know who she was. She had to come up and tell us who she was. And I didn't really get it, until she came for rehearsal with her, box of wigs and stuff on. And, she had, I think she called him her little cutie, but her husband or something, that they were on there together. And she would warm up on us backstage, telling us the most raunchy, crazy, dirty jokes. And, all of, like we were talking about earlier, the celebrities would put on great shows. And then after the show was done, they were like a whole different person. She was exactly opposite of that. She was a frail old lady that really talked skinny. And she was skinny and she was frail. And I think she was probably in her 80s or something at this time.
She lived a long time then.
But yeah. Well, when she would walk up, Jan would have to walk her up the stairs and put her in the wings and get ready for her announcement. And we were like, oh my God, Jan, we're moving. Like, she's going to fall over. And she's like, no, she's good. She's got it. You'll see. And we're like, we didn't even get it. And then she would go to the wing, and the second they were like, blah, 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 ladies and gentlemen, Phyllis Diller, and the spot would hit the curtain and she would go out and do a whole show of one-liners that I don't think people could do that nowadays, because she touched on every subject and we're like, oh my God, she's going to be in the comic cards. That's going to be a bad thing. But
people loved her.
Was laughing.
So I got to meet a lot of them because I was working the front desk as an assistant purser, and they would come on board and we had to check them in. So I remember Grand Cayman days, if we were on in the afternoon, we would get all the guests, the star guests coming on. Yeah. And we would check them in. So that's how I got to meet a lot of those ones that you're talking about.
Yeah. Do you remember Shirley Jones? No, I'm sorry.
Yes. Shirley Jones brought.
Yeah.
She brought Sean Cassidy.
Sean Cassidy. There's a story there. We won't talk about that.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, maybe we will. Maybe we'll have to get that. We'll have to talk back.
No, you have to get that person who. We'll talk later.
All right. But Lainey Kazan.
Oh yeah.
Wait, what? Yeah. I don't know. I never met her. No.
She came on.
Yeah, she came on.
And whoever was after Greg, it might have been me and Greg, or Greg and I, or
well, GE came in there too.
Well, yeah. Was he after Greg?
Yeah.
I can't remember. It was one of us and I that we got a final warning, because after we got done schlepping their luggage and stuff like that, she tipped us like, $3, like, here you go. We're like, there's 4 of us. And so I had taken, I'm like, no, that's okay. And I gave it back to her and just kind of turned around and walked off, and didn't even think anything about it, but I get called up to the hotel managers, and he was like, did you just refuse gratuity from Lainey Kazan and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, I mean, yeah, it was $4 between the 4 of us. I just, it wasn't, we just wanted to give it back because we were kind of pissed off. And he's like, don't ever do that again and sign here. But yeah, we got a lot for that.
You got written up a couple times? Is that what I'm hearing?
Well, that was a final warning for that contract. So we had to be okay for months, but I think I was written up maybe 3, 4, 5, 6 times.
I was pretty two-shoes.
I got written up at least 2 times that I can remember. I got written up. One of them as a first purser. Sue Richardson wrote me up as a first purser on the Majesty. Brad, you were there, and I was pretty pissed off. But I look back at it, and I wasn't a saint, so I probably deserved it.
Yeah,
Could you imagine being on ships nowadays though? Look at how the rules have changed with all these mega ships and all that kind of stuff. You're like, oh my God, I had some of the best times of my life in my 20s on ships. But today, and I wouldn't discourage anybody from going out there and getting a job on a ship, but God, there's just so many rules right now that I couldn't imagine dealing with 6,000 people.
Yeah. And the people who do it now are probably, they don't know any better. So they're probably fine with it. But until we get on a reunion cruise and talk to these people and we're like, oh, we did this and this and this and this and this. And they're like, are you serious?
How about cruise shows? Come on. Cruise shows are some pretty amazing cruise shows, right? I was flipping through my pictures here and there were some pictures of the photogs would always do that little balloon act in their underwear. Did you ever see those where they would, yeah, the whole photo team would be up there, the boys mostly, and they'd have their thongs on or whatever, and then they have balloons in front of them. Oh, just some good times. The worst part of the cruise, though, if I had to go back to ships again, was always boat drill. But like Coast Guard drills were the worst. Like I understand they have to happen. I get all of that, but
yeah, because we had to do it twice a week.
Yeah.
We had to do the passenger one and the cruise.
I used to, we used to get out of the passenger one because it was on turnaround day and we were in the, the pursers were way too busy. So we always got out of that one. But the crew drills always seem to be standing in the sun, like when you're majorly hungover. And it was always just horrible.
Oh, speaking of hungover, so I have to tell you this quick story as well. So my first couple contracts, I didn't really drink, and not that I was a goody two shoes or whatever, but I didn't really drink alcohol. I was more of a Coca-Cola kid, and that's all I drank was Coca-Cola. And but I remember towards the end of my contracts with Royal, Jeff Arpin was the cruise director. It was a Christmas sailing. I didn't do very many Christmas sailings because I just always liked to be home because the holiday sailings were kind of rough. But I was asked to play Santa, for the kids program. Mm-hmm. And the Christmas Eve night, they did all the caroling in the Centrum and all that kind of stuff. They did, and Karen and I were just out drinking. We were just whatever. First time I think I was really, really, really pissed drunk. So we're doing good. And I had to play Santa the next morning. I had to report to Jeff Arpin's cabin, I think at like 6:30 in the morning or something stupid like that. And I think we got to bed at 4:30. This didn't happen very often for me, just saying. I know you all have better stories than I do about that. But and I was just still hungover, and I get to Jeff Arpin's room getting my Santa suit and whatnot. And they're like, okay, Jeff gave me this, not verbatim, but he was like, here you go. You need to keep up with it, because I think it was Chip Collins, may he also rest in peace, who used to play the Santa before, and Chip used to like his adult beverages a little bit more than I did, and Jeff Arpin came in with Bloody Marys, and I'm like, okay, and I could not drink because I'm not a big tomato juice person, so I'm like, ugh. So Santa chose to have vodka orange juice that morning to continue, and I was shore excursion manager at the time as well. So I had it was a sea day. I had my duties to do at the shore excursion desk, but I had the best assistant manager, Rachel Millsman. Oh my God, Rachel, miss her, love her to pieces too. She was the best assistant. So I was just totally shit-faced the whole time. And Santa would sit in the Centrum, right at the bottom floor of the Centrum, and people were going around, and the kids would come up in the lap, and you give them their little present, whatever. And I would say to the youth counselor, like, hey, Santa needs some orange juice. He's parched. Of course, it was loaded with vodka, right? And so I was just trying to, and I had a microphone hooked up to me, talking to everybody. So that afternoon, I thought, you know what? I'm just going to go sleep. Rachel has this. They can call me when they need me, blah, 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 blah. Well, Rachel called. She's like, hotel manager's really pissed. You need to get up here now. What's happening? What, you can handle this? She's like, you need to come up now. It was something stupid. And I forget the hotel manager, which one he was. Vinod, I think it was. That was a Vinod. Anyway.
He wasn't hotel manager back then. It might have been like Barry Jones or Jonathan Booth. I don't know.
No, it was one of the dudes from I think it was Vinod.
Oh, maybe.
Anyway, and so I had to come up, and it was something stupid, like, I don't know, passenger complaining about a refund or something. I don't remember. So then I'm like, well, I'm awake now, so I'll just I'm not going out tonight. I'm going to go, go to my room after this, eat dinner, and go to bed. Oh, my one and only time I was invited to the hotel manager's dinner table was that night. Fuck. Come on, like let a brother sleep, because I wasn't used to that kind of play action. And so you go to the hotel manager's table, and then of course you get served all more wine. You get served
lot of
this.
wine. Yeah.
I'm like, oh my god. So that was actually a good time, but I just remember trying to keep up with the previous Santas with drinking, and that was just game for me to keep up with them. And I'm like, anyway,
oh my
sorry,
God. That was awesome. Todd, man, I got to tell you, it was so great to talk to you and hear your stories and everything today. I think that we are going to close it out for today, and this probably will end up going for maybe 2 parts. We'll see what we have on the recording there, but thanks so much for being on here. It's great to talk to you and see you and hear from you again. Do you have any, so here's where you can plug your stuff if you want to tell your name and your website, and then I'll put that on the end. Okay. Todd, about your cruise planners, tell everybody about your, what you do.
Well, so a few years ago, my sister and I went into a franchise, bought the franchise for cruise planners. So we are now.
Wait a minute, I got that wrong. We did this last time, and it went on for like 5 minutes. So just give us your just the briefing. Like the briefing, like, hey,
and how to reach you,
and how to reach you, and your website, and that's pretty much about it.
Okay, perfect. Right. So yeah, whenever you're ready to travel, come sail with Cruise Planners here in Newark, Delaware. Go to www.seetheworld.fun. Remember, fun, not com, because we went with fun, for any cruise specials that are going on. There are a bunch of us that are former crew people that are selling cruises, so come join one of us. That would be great to see you and play with you. I'm todd.gockley@cruiseplanners.com. That's how you can reach me. Call me, email me anytime.
Awesome. Well, appreciate Todd. Appreciate having you on. It was a lot of fun. Brad, Eric, do you guys got anything left?
No, it's good. Always good to see you, Todd. With this COVID stuff, I didn't get a chance to see you this year, so I'm glad that you were able to come on and we can chat and I feel just like old times, just reminisce.
It really does. Hey, boys, thank you so much for doing this. I know that I speak for many of the crew members, our fellow crew members, current and past, that thank you for reaching out and doing this. This is a pretty awesome platform to be doing. Thank you.
Awesome. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Todd.
Thanks, Todd.
Good night,
Appreciate
everybody.